Have you ever met someone who says, "Oh, it's just another day" on their birthday? No excitement, no countdown, no big plans, just normal. And you can't help but wonder, how? Because for most people, a birthday feels like a spotlight. But for some, it feels like a regular Tuesday. So what's going on inside their mind? Picture this. It's morning. Sunlight slips through the curtains. A phone lights up with notifications. Happy birthday. Many happy returns. Party tonight? But the person just turns off the alarm, stretches, and goes to work. No special outfit.no grand celebration. Maybe not even a cake. If this feels strange to you, you're not alone. Because culturally, birthdays are supposed to matter. They're supposed to be loud, joyful, a little dramatic. So when someone treats it like nothing special, there's usually something deeper behind it. For many people, birthdays feel like a personal milestone, a checkpoint, a moment to measure life. Am I where I should be? Did I achieve enough? But for some people, they don't attach their identity to a calendar date. To them, growth isn't something that happens once a year. It's daily, quiet, continuous. So their mindset is simple. Why should one day define me? And psychologically, this often reflects internal validation. They don't need a specific day to feel important or celebrated, because they've already built that feeling inside. Now imagine the opposite side. A birthday isn't just a celebration, it's pressure. You're expected to be happy, excited, grateful, social, even if you're tired, even if life feels heavy. For some people, that expectation feels exhausting. So instead of performing happiness, they opt out. They keep it simple. No part means no pressure. No attention means no anxiety. And here's the interesting part. People who treat birthdays normally are often protecting their mental energy. They're not avoiding joy. They're avoiding forced joy. Let's talk about personality. Close your eyes and imagine two scenes. Scene one, a loud room, music, dozens of people, everyone talking at once. Scene two, a quiet evening, one or two close friends, soft laughter, deep conversation. For extroverts, the first scene feels alive. For introverts, it can feel draining. So when a birthday comes, an introverted person might think, why would I choose the most exhausting version of a day on my own birthday? Instead, they treat it like any other peaceful day. Maybe a small meal, maybe solitude. And psychologically, this is about energy management. They're not ignoring their birthday. They're designing it in a way that protects their energy. Now let's go deeper. Sometimes it's not personality, it's history. Think about someone who had birthdays that felt disappointing, forgotten wishes, canceled plans, people who didn't show up. After a few experiences like that, the brain learns something powerful. Don't expect too much. So over time, birthdays become neutral, not sad, not exciting, just ordinary. Because emotionally, it's safer that way. And this is a classic psychological defense. Lower expectations to avoid disappointment. Here's a paradox. Some people who treat birthdays like a normal day actually value life more deeply. They just don't believe meaning comes from rituals. Phone them. A random Tuesday coffee with a close friend can feel more meaningful than a big birthday party. They don't wait for a date to feel connected, appreciated, or alive. They create those moments throughout the year. So their thinking becomes, if I'm living well every day, why should one day be special? And that flips the whole idea of birthdays upside down. Let's be honest. A big part of birthdays is social expectation. Society tells you, celebrate, post pictures, cut a cake, show happiness. But some people quietly step outside that script. They don't feel the need to follow traditions just because everyone else does. And psychologically, this shows high self-direction. They're comfortable being different. They don't need external approval. To define what's important, So if a birthday doesn't feel meaningful to them, they simply don't treat it that way. At first glance, treating your birthday like a normal day might seem boring, but sometimes it's the opposite. It can reflect a quiet kind of confidence, the kind that says, I don't need a spotlight to feel seen. I don't need one day to feel valued. I don't need attention to feel complete. And that's powerful because it means their sense of worth isn't dependent on external celebration. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Not everyone who ignores their birthday is peaceful and content. For some, it's emotional distance. They've disconnected from the idea of being celebrated. Maybe they feel uncomfortable receiving attention. Maybe they struggle with self-worth. So instead of leaning into celebration, they minimize it. They say, it's nothing. But deep down, it might mean something. And this is where psychology becomes complex. Because the same behavior, treating a birthday as normal, can come from two very different places: inner peace or emotional protection. Imagine two people. Person A wakes up on their birthday, smiles, and says, just another beautiful day. They go for a walk, enjoy a quiet meal, feel content. Person B wakes up, checks their phone, sees fewer messages than expected, and says, it doesn't matter anyway. Same behavior, completely different emotions. One is grounded, the other is guarded. And from the outside, you can't always tell the difference. So the next time you meet someone who treats their birthday like a normal day, don't assume they're boring. Don't assume they don't care. Instead, ask yourself, are they peaceful or protecting themselves? Are they independent or quietly disappointed? Because human behavior is rarely simple. Sometimes a quiet birthday is a sign of deep contentment. And sometimes it's a story that was never celebrated properly. Maybe the real question isn't, why don't they celebrate? Maybe it's, what does celebration mean to them? Because in the end, a meaningful life isn't measured by how loudly you celebrate one day, but by how deeply you live all the others. If this made you see people a little differently, or even understand yourself a bit more, consider subscribing. Because sometimes the quietest behaviors shave the loudest psychology behind them.